Welcome back to Otaku Flashback TV. I'm your host, and today we have an incredible story that you absolutely need to watch. What happens when an ordinary guy with zero magical talent gets transported to a fantasy world? Most heroes would give up, but not Ewan. Join us as we dive into the incredible journey of a man who went from being laughed at for having no magic to commanding the most powerful fairies in existence. From vampire encounters to academy battles, this story has everything you need for the ultimate fantasy adventure. So grab your snacks, get comfortable, and let's get started.
The story starts with Ewan getting ready for a trip. He goes to the airport feeling excited and dreams about having a great vacation. When he goes to board his plane, he accidentally walks through a magic doorway and ends up in a different world full of magic and fantasy creatures. He's happy because he thinks he'll live like a hero in the stories he reads. A man asks him to take a test to see how much magic power he has. Ewan goes to take the test, expecting to be amazing like other story heroes. But when he puts his hands on the magic stone, it glows white, and everyone laughs at him because white light means he has no magic at all. Using a special magnifying glass, the testers see a tiny bit of green light, which means he has very weak plant magic. They tell him to come back when his magic gets stronger. While he feels sorry for himself, an old man offers him a job as a gardener since he has a little bit of plant magic. Ewan starts working as a gardener whose magic can only grow small flowers. One day he hears noises in the forest and goes to look. He finds some people being romantic together. They see him watching, so he runs away, but they use magic to catch him and embarrass him. That night he complains to his boss, who tells him the only way to get stronger is to find fairies. The boss says he once tried to do this and got a fairy seed but couldn't make it grow. He gives the seed to Ewan to try. Ewan sees some kind of mark on the seed and shows his boss, but only Ewan can read the Chinese writing on it. He tries many different ways to make the seed grow for several days, but nothing works. Then he gets the idea to try using his blood. He goes back into the forest and finds the same group again. This time, the woman bites one of the boys and shows she's actually a vampire. The other boys get angry at her and attack her, but she fights back and captures the other boy too. Ewan runs away scared, but the vampire catches him anyway. She grabs him and stabs him in the chest. Flowers start growing from where she hurt him. The flowers bloom beautifully, and a lady appears from the center. This is a fairy. She comes toward him planning to kill him, but he's already dead. The vampire wants her reward, but the fairy has different plans. She attacks the vampire with a special move that swaps the vampire's life energy with her master's. Ewan wakes up because the fairy has finally appeared. But the fairy tells him she only saved him so she could kill him herself. She starts attacking him, but any damage she does to him also hurts her. A woman interrupts them and says she's the head teacher of Shuyu Academy. She gives Ewan a book called The Fairy Guide, which he uses to trap the fairy inside. Later she explains that all the fairies disappeared from their land overnight, and this guide is all that's left about them. She wants the book, so she makes a deal. He has to come to her school and be her student, and help her find a vampire hiding there. That night, another fairy in the book named Yessie starts talking to him. She tells him about fairies and their history. She says he's too weak to call any fairy, so she moves into his phone to make things easier. When Ewan gets to the academy, the other students aren't nice to him. They try to embarrass him again by making him test a magic crystal. This time it glows brightly, showing he has two types of magic. He immediately tries to ask a girl on a date, but she gets embarrassed and runs away. He asks Yessie what happened, and she explains that he now has the powers of both vampires and fairies, plus the ability to charm people. In exercise class, Ewan can't keep up with all the running, but the teacher and other students are fine. A jealous student wants to fight Ewan. Even though Ewan says no, the teacher makes them fight anyway. Right then, Princess Ankai arrives to watch the fight. The fight starts with the student sending a wind spell at Ewan, but he has a protective barrier. His fairy Mofe tells him to let her out so she can kill the student, but Ewan doesn't want that. Instead, he uses his plant magic to beat the student, but then he faints. When he wakes up, he finds himself in another world. He sees a dying girl and takes care of her. Some men show up saying they want to sell her as a slave, but he won't let them. He tries to run away but gets beaten up badly. He protects the girl by covering her with his body. Once he finds out the girl is a fairy, he wakes up back in the real world. Yessie tells him he just went to the fairy world. She says Mofe won't attack him anymore. He talks to her and finds out she still has a mean attitude toward him. Some students come into the medical room, so he hides. They turn out to be vampires feeding on another patient. Mofe talks to him through his phone and says she can get stronger by eating vampires. At home, while he's making instant noodles, he notices someone coming toward his room. He thinks it's the vampire, so he hides for his life. He manages to attack the person, who turns out to be Princess Ankai, who was sleepwalking. He sees no one followed her, so he puts her on the bed and goes to sleep. She wakes up in a cozy position with Ewan, so she gets angry and calls him shameless. He calms her down by offering her noodles, which she really likes. They quickly hide when they notice intruders. The vampires search the whole room but can't find Ewan. He then uses his plant vines to tie them up and escapes with the princess. He makes her go a different way and leads the vampires to himself. He wakes up Mofe, who attacks the vampires for him. She easily beats the vampires with her strength, but before she can finish them off, their master arrives. He kills them instantly. Yessie tells Ewan that their master is a level 8 knight who would be hard for Mofe to beat right now. As the battle continues with the knight winning, Ewan asks Yessie for help. She explains he can either make Mofe stronger by bonding with her, or he can rebuild the fairy world, but he doesn't have enough magic energy to enter the fairy world. The princess cuts in and says she can give her energy to him, so he bribes her with a year's worth of noodles. As she's giving him her energy, the knight attacks Ewan, but Mofe protects him with her body. Ewan appears in the fairy world with Yessie. Here they find Mofe, who is working as an assassin. She can't see or touch them. He follows her and finds her talking with a man who looks just like him. She watches the man called Zhao play music for children in the street, but some bullies confront him and beat him up for trying to protect the children. As Mofe watches, she remembers being saved by him before, so she comes to help him. As thanks, Zhao gives her his sword. She takes it and promises to help him if he needs it. Ewan gets annoyed watching them.
He explains that his look-alike Zhao is very sneaky and probably planned the whole thing to make Mofe fall in love with him, like in his video game. Back in the present, Ewan is unconscious and Mofe keeps fighting the knight even though she's exhausted. As a last try, she defends Ewan by trapping the knight with her blood. As he talks angrily, the knight reveals he can see Ewan. He asks Ewan what he's going to do with Mofe, the game hero, but Ewan tells him he doesn't think of Mofe as just a game character. Zhao goes to Mofe's house, but she attacks him instead. She explains that no one ever visits her. Zhao tempts her with gifts while Ewan can only watch angrily. The next day, they go on a date together. Zhao says he's an explorer and tells her about different places he's been to. His favorite is a house surrounded by flowers. The next day, after killing a man, she finds him waiting for her, so she hides her sword from him.
At home, he cooks and treats her nicely, while Ewan watches. Ewan notices these events are happening just like the game he was working on before coming to this world. Mo-Fei takes an assassination job to earn money so she can run away with her new boyfriend. Her boss warns her that Zhao might be dangerous, but she doesn't listen. She buys tickets and gives them to him. Zhao tells her they'll meet up in 3 days at the lighthouse. 3 days later, she packs her things to leave. She meets some bullies, but surprises them by letting them live. At the lighthouse, Mo-Fei waits and waits for Zhao, but he doesn't show up. Ewan watches angrily as she waited for 3 days and nights. The next morning, her boss comes to tell her she's been tricked. The place gets bombed, but Mo-Fei fights her way through the enemies. They tell her to give up by taking a little girl hostage, but she defeats them all by herself. She saves the girl, but gets stabbed. Zhao shows himself as the one behind the whole plan. As she's captured, Mo-Fei remembers her past and cries. The gang leader decides to kill her, but Zhao doesn't like this idea, so he fights off the rest of the gang using his fairies. Mo-Fei manages to get up and tries to drag him to death with her, but his fairies protect him. She keeps attacking until her swords break and she has no strength left. The man won't let her die. He offers her a contract where she'll become a super powerful fairy. She accepts the contract and turns into a fairy. Ewan attacks Zhao for being cruel to Mo-Fei, but Zhao explains he's just playing a game to make the characters stronger. He says they're the same person, and he's trying to make his dream of ruling another world come true. Zhao disappears, leaving Ewan behind. Ewan tries to free her by stabbing himself to make the flowers bloom. Yessie tries to stop him, but he doesn't listen. He climbs up and gives Mo-Fei a goodbye kiss. He lets go and falls on the sword. When Mo-Fei wakes up, she realizes that Ewan and Zhao are different people. She cries because Ewan died for her. But it turns out he's still alive. She wants an explanation, so he tells her what's happening in the real world. Together, they open a doorway back to the present. The princess has used up all her spiritual energy. Now Ewan and Mo-Fei can combine to awaken their fairy form. With this new power, they fight the night as equals in an intense battle. Ewan seems to be enjoying his new power, but Yessie reminds him to finish things quickly. Both fighters use their strongest attacks, but Ewan wins. After the battle, the dean gives him 2 fairy seeds as a reward. She asks him to keep what happened a secret. The next day, Ewan's tiredness from the battle shows in class. The teacher introduces 2 new transfer students who turn out to be Mo-Fei and Princess Ankai. They both sit with Ewan, so all the guys in class become jealous of him. He runs away from the crowd, chasing him for taking all the beautiful girls. He ends up in the library, where he asks the librarian for magic to grow magical seeds. She gives him 2 scrolls, saying they're what he can handle at his level. That night, he tries to use the scroll, but Yessie tells him it won't work. She tells him not to worry because she ate a plant encyclopedia and learned how to grow the seeds. With her help, they figure out how to grow the seeds. But he just throws them into the lake and waits. He waits for days, but nothing happens. The knight reports to his master, who is angry that he failed to carry out his plan. He calms down after hearing about the existence of fairies. He orders the knight to get the fairy by killing its master. Later, the fairy seed finally transforms magically into a white-haired fairy. Mo-Fei is upset by how the fairy woke up. The fairy suddenly becomes aware and immediately tries to attack Ewan, calling him fake. The moment gets interrupted by another fairy seed blooming. The arrival of the second fairy makes the other fairies stop being hostile, so they accept Ewan as their master. Ewan names them Lotus and Uxian and puts them into the guide. The next day, the principal tells him that the rogue knight is leading some knights from the Orphe Empire to attack the princess and steal his fairies. She orders him to leave the academy with the princess. As they travel, he notices that Uxian and Lotus have gone ahead to a lake. He and Ankai rush excitedly to take a swim, but they run into a dragon. The dragon wants to capture the cute fairies for himself, so he attacks Ewan. After the dragon introduces himself as Giorgio, Ewan challenges him to a fight. He traps the dragon with his vine, forcing it to give up. Ewan asks him to drop some money since he lost, so the dragon flies off, leaving behind a whistle. Later, he books a room at the lake resort for his companions. Later, Lotus is still hostile toward him. She tells him she woke up with an unknown feeling of hatred toward him. Ewan notices she has memory loss, so he tells her to relax in the lake. But she starts losing control and attacks him. She ends up taking the damage instead. The knights suddenly appear, wanting to steal the fairies. Ewan uses the whistle to call Giorgio. Instead of fighting for him, the dragon joins forces with the knights, hoping they'll save a fairy for him. The fairies fight the knights in a 3-on-3 battle while Ewan is chased by the dragon. His vines don't work this time, so Giorgio forces him into the lake. Inside, he's able to catch the dragon using a new spell. He then notices a seal at the bottom of the lake. As the seal reacts with Ewan, Mufei rushes to help him, leaving the two fairies to be outnumbered. They try to hold off the knights until Mufei comes back to defend them. At the same time, the knight attacks Kai, who is sleeping. Ewan wakes up to find Zhao again. He tells Ewan that a new game has started. He sees Lotus, who is still human. She offers to treat his injury, but she does too much. She tells him her name is Lion. Ewan is told he's inside the fairy world of her memories, so he has to follow her and discover her memories so he can go back to the real world. Zhao then finds a baby dragon and asks him to spy on Lion. The dragon reports that Lion picks flowers for a living. Also, she's trying to find a way to cure her sick sister. Zhao tries to get close to her, like he did with Mufei. He offers to help her look for herbs that can cure her sister in a cave. Inside, they're attacked by a giant tiger. Despite the danger, she goes ahead to pick the herb. The roof starts falling, so Ewan rushes to save her, but Zhao teleports to rescue her, leaving Ewan to face the tiger alone. Lion leads Zhao out of the cave, but the tiger chases them. They reach a cliff with nowhere to escape, so Lion moves to protect them with a stick. As she attacks the beast, it tries to step on her, but she's saved in time. Zhao goes back to fight the monster and defeats it easily. He learns it was the baby dragon who woke up the beast. Knowing what it did, the dragon starts begging for its life. It's forgiven, but thrown down the cliff to search for more herbs. Later, Lion cries because the herbs didn't cure her sister. Zhao says he knows a cure. He tells her it's called the purity of the 3 incarnations. The next day, Zhao proposes to Lion, but she leaves without saying how she felt. She didn't respond because she only wanted to take care of her sister. At home, she cares for her sister, who is Lotus and is very weak. She tells her that Zhao told her about a medicine, but it's still incomplete. The next day, Lion goes out to find more herbs. She finds Zhao sleeping by the lake waiting for her. He then takes her on a boat ride. Ewan is there, but she can't see him. As they ride, she tells him this was the lake where her sister saved her from drowning. As a result, her sister developed an illness. The next day at the lake, he says he's found the complete prescription. He explains that they need the blood of the patient's relatives, but it has to be in large amounts, so it's too dangerous. In the present, the knight can't attack the princess because of a protection spell done by Ewan. She wakes up and hugs him, not knowing he's a traitor. Outside, Mufei continues to battle the other knights, but she can't protect her fellow fairies. The princess arrives with the knight, but he attacks the fairies and reveals that the other knights are his allies. Back in the fairy world, Lion hangs out with Zhao, but Lotus watches her angrily because she told her she was going to get herbs for her. Lion explains to Zhao that she's tired of taking care of her sister and wants a life of her own. She blames herself for what happened at the lake, but she's accepted that her sister's disease can't be cured. Lotus hears this and breaks down crying. That night, Lion gives Lotus medicine with added poison, but Lotus knows and drinks it anyway.
As Lion prepares her meal, she takes a knife to kill her but hesitates. Lion, who already noticed, tells her to go ahead, so Lotus forces her hands. Lion tells Lotus to take her to the lake so her blood can be used to cure her. At the lake, Zhao tells Lotus that Lion made her hate her so she would be able to sacrifice herself for her. But Lotus doesn't want this. She takes the body into the lake. Here she prays to God that he makes them sisters in the next life. In exchange, she offers her life. Zhao offers to grant her wish by turning them into fairies. Seeing this again makes Ewan angry. He tells his evil self to stop playing with people's lives. Ewan attacks him but gets countered and beaten up. Zhao reminds Ewan that Mufei is still fighting for him in reality while he's stuck in the fairy world. Ewan finds himself playing the main character from the beginning again. This time Lion can see him. He relives all the events like his evil self did until the point where she cries about her sister's disease. He tells her about the purity of the three incarnations. But he goes ahead to tell Lotus that the last ingredient needed for the drug is Lion's blood. After listening to him, Lotus promises him she won't let Lion hurt herself for her. Later, he's invited to dinner by the two sisters. During the meal, Ewan and Lion suddenly collapse. Ewan later wakes up to find the room empty. He rushes to the lake where he finds the sisters going down into the lake again. He's disappointed that his actions didn't change anything, so he begs Zhao to give him another chance. Zhao agrees and sends him to the beginning again. He wakes up and relives the entire story again with Lion. This time he stops the sisters from getting the knife before anyone got hurt. He's able to explain that they don't need to sacrifice each other to be happy. The sisters make up happily, so Ewan leaves them to go outside. Here, he meets his evil self, Zhao, who congratulates him on his success. Zhao tells him his efforts might not affect the present, but Fairy Lotus appears to tell him that's not true. Together they open a portal where he's supposed to be transported back to reality along with the baby dragon. The dragon comes out of the water with Ewan. He quickly puts the princess on its back for safety, then confronts the knights and their leader. As the battle begins again, Lotus combines with Ewan to awaken another fairy form. With his new form, he attacks the knight. He realizes this form with Lotus lets him control water. As the knight attacks, he freezes him in place. He goes ahead to save Uxian from another enemy by freezing him. He also helps Mufei defeat the second knight by drowning him. At the same time, the last knight is trying to capture the dragon. Ewan comes to help and punches the robber so hard that he spits out blood. He continues with many punches until the knight falls into the lake. The leader knight breaks free, releasing an intense aura. Ewan sees he's prepared to use an ultimate move, so he calls Mufei to combine with him too. His new form is so majestic and intense that the knight almost wets himself, but the knight summons courage and attacks. Ewan entertains himself by battling him. He tries different attacks with his new power and watches as the knight tries so hard to counter them. Finally, the knight goes down. Ewan prepares a finishing move for him but is stopped by the princess, so he sends his attack to the sky and separates from his fairies. The princess puts an end to the fight, but the knight goes away. The lake begins blooming with flowers, and Lotus reveals she's merging with the lake to make up for her sins. Ewan then goes back to the guide, and Mufei follows shortly after.
And that's where we'll leave Ewan's incredible journey for today. From a magicless gardener to a fairy master facing off against powerful knights, this story just keeps getting more intense. What do you think will happen next? Will Ewan be able to rebuild the fairy world? Can Mufei defeat the level 8 knight? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this fantasy adventure recap, smash that like button and subscribe to Otaku Flashback TV for more amazing anime and manga stories. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload, and I'll see you in the next video right here on Otaku Flashback TV.